Story 1. My boyfriend stays still and gives me a particular look in his eyes. It took me a while, but eventually, I've learned that it is his way of saying, I could do with a hug from you right now, even as everything else feels bad. Many times, a simple holding of hands or a hug with a back rub is all it takes to remind him that I am here. You are not alone, be strong, and let's face this together. Yes, even after we fight, someone's got to make the first move towards reconciliation anyway. Story 2-1. Hey, I'm going through a tough time right now. Can we talk? Or just do a relaxing activity? Just to let you know, I have some baggage I've been carrying. I'm dealing with something right now. So this happened today, and it made me feel a certain way. Hey, something didn't sit too well with me. Can we talk about it? Preface it with honesty and state where you are coming from, and she'll understand what kind of conversation or action is about to happen and why. Be rational and mature about it while also being open about your fears, worries, anger, or other emotions. Talk, communicate. If you aren't sure how to phrase something, say, I'm not sure what the right words are, but it's like, and if she's mature and rational, she'll respond in a helpful and empathetic way. Story 3. I think it's different for every couple depending on how your baseline communication is. When I first began seeing that my childhood dog was getting sick, I knew her days were numbered. I don't become emotional often, but when I went up to my room, I just stood in place, slightly hanging my head. My girlfriend came up from behind me and just hugged me. I broke down. She knew how I was feeling just by my body language and demeanor. I will say, I'm so thankful for that kind of connection. It's not always easy for guys to express when we're feeling sad. So having someone in your life that can sometimes just tell is really special. Story 4. This thread has confused me beyond belief. Is the general consensus that guys should just not talk about their feelings at all? Even if it's just, I'm having a bad day? Story 5. I actually think women are good at this when you aren't dating them. I have a few good female friends who I always went to in situations like this. Most of the time, it was people I'd never date, ever, for various reasons, such as being married or not finding them attractive. If for some reason that didn't work, I find that drinking with a good buddy at a bar where you can actually talk can lead to some surprisingly deep conversations. Story 6. To all the women who decided to browse through Ask Men, it's perfectly fine to go through all the comments here if you like. Maybe add on to a post if you have something you'd like to share. However, please don't invalidate the advice born out of the experiences of the men here for whom the question is intended. This is very different from simple disagreement. I was genuinely confused to see the consensus shift from one side to the other until I realized that the female posters were responsible for a huge part of the side that advocated ditching your partner to find a new one if they didn't respond to a call for emotional support in a manner that you find ideal. It's not always that simple. The dynamics between men and women are very complex due to a number of reasons beyond your control. Keep in mind that this is not a defense of traditional gender roles, but an attempt to navigate the realities of this imbalance instead of complaining about what's fair and what isn't. You can disagree with the consensus. You can find it completely incorrect. But the main reason for Ask Men's existence is to get answers to questions from other men who face the same challenges as we do, and have real experiences with issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We didn't ask for this, and if we had the chance, we'd do things very differently. But to advise men seeking guidance from other men to set expectations that do not reflect the current realities of human relationships is simply setting them up for failure, especially when you have no prior experience in such matters, and is foolish at best and deliberately harmful at worst. Story 7. Simply a text. Bad mood. Bad day. Upset. Dogs walked, and I am going out for a bit on my mountain bike. Shadatu. And then after my ride, and I have exhausted myself of any anger and pent-up energy, I will talk to her for however long it takes. Story 8. I sit and I wait until I can fully figure out my emotions and needs and how to communicate them. Then I attempt to tell her, and it's at about this point she'll comment about how I didn't tell her before or that by taking time I was playing a game or doing something along those lines. I'll attempt to make myself better understood or clear up confusion. This will go horribly, as I can do nothing right. I now have new emotions that I should attempt to communicate. I sit and I wait until I can fully figure out my emotions and needs and how to communicate them. Repeat a few times, and I am very single now. Possibly my fault for having the emotional intelligence and self-awareness of gravel, but I try. Story 9. I tried being open once. I had a rough time and was feeling like a failure for not being able to accomplish a few things. I just needed a little motivation from my partner to feel that someone supports me no matter what. So I shared my feelings. What I received was the opposite. Her interpretation of giving motivation was being aggressive and putting me down. I was really close to just breaking that long-term relationship because it's not the type of person I want to spend the rest of my life with. She then tried to convince me that she thought it was the type of help that I needed and that she obviously didn't mean to hurt me. I just figured that it's the way women see us. It's like we are not allowed to show emotional weakness. They are often not used to it and they don't know how to deal with it. I guess the confusion is even stronger since I'm the type of person who generally barely shows any emotions. I decided to keep the relationship, but I'll just keep emotions that show weakness to myself. Story 10. I'm on the supply side of emotional support. I have to be absolutely able to regulate my own emotions and keep myself calm and steady to support my wife. I am not saying all women are like this. Also, she is a wonderful, ethical, caring woman in all other ways, and to be fair, her job is incredibly stressful. Story 11. My boyfriend shuts himself off with a blank face, and I take it as a sign that he needs some emotional support. He is a typical funny man who always jokes, can't stop talking, and smiles all the time. So when he is serious, I know something is wrong. At first, it was his coping mechanism to bottle it up like a man, but now it is simply an I need a hug right now, and sometimes even an I want to talk about it but don't know how to ask. So can you nag until I pretend to be annoyed enough to tell you? I know it is pretending because his I don't want to talk really sign is to tell me just that, and his I do want to talk but I was taught men don't talk about emotions, and I need you to pretend to nag me so I have an excuse involves repeatedly stating I'm fine with a painful sigh afterward. I know most jokes suggest a woman does this I'm fine thing, but honestly, I've yet to meet a guy who doesn't do the I'm fine acting challenge instead of telling what's wrong, and a girl who does. Every single one of my female friends just starts ranting. Story 12. I pick her up, throw her in bed, and then spoon with her being the big spoon. She gets the point real quick. She will then rub my head while I tell her what's wrong. Really recharges the emotional batteries. Story 13. Something I read on here, and the same message in different ways, is to make sure you respect your partner by asking them if they have the right headspace right now to listen to you, especially if you are going to be sharing some heavy issues with them. It also ensures that you communicate what you want, a listener instead of a fixer. Story 14. Honestly, my boyfriend doesn't even have to tell me. I can just tell something's up, and then I'll ask. He just sighs a lot and wants to cuddle more. I don't think he's intentionally not communicating. He's just very introverted, and it doesn't really occur to him to talk about his issues unless somebody asks. It's really sad to me to see that so many feel they can't do this at all. I'll readily admit that as a pretty sensitive person myself, I'm not particularly well equipped to deal with a huge overflow of anybody's emotions. But if there's anyone I'll do it for, it's my significant other. I really appreciate when he's able to open up to me because it's almost always something I didn't expect, and I end up learning very important things about him as a person, which allows me to be more supportive in the future than I would be if I didn't have a clue about his needs. I've learned a lot of important things this way. Edit. Which kind of makes me wonder if this whole issue is actually being misunderstood, because I wonder if this is actually about the number of young women who think they shouldn't actually have to do much of anything to maintain a relationship. Like the I'm a woman, and therefore men should try to impress me mindset, which I think is fully subconscious in those who have it, to be fair, but it does exist. Basically, women who don't think they should have to be learning anything about how to be a better partner themselves, because women are complicated and men are simple and so on. He's supposed to be her emotional rock, and she doesn't want to be his not because of masculinity or thinking he's weak, as everybody else is saying, but simply because it's asking her to perform a role in the relationship that she doesn't feel she's supposed to, and now she's confused. Obviously, this is all just a brainstorming idea. It's just a different direction of this discussion that occurred to me once I got to thinking about it. Story 15. If I feel communicative, I will open with, I need a hug. She will then hug me and, after that, ask what's wrong. If I don't feel communicative, I just make a kind of whiny noise, which elicits the same reaction. It's not very manly, but it gets the job done. She, on the other hand, will launch into a long, angry tirade about something or other. When she lets off some steam, I will hug her, and then we talk about what's actually bothering her. That, or she resorts to exaggerated, repeated sighing. That works too. Story 16. My significant other usually becomes quieter than usual or not as smiley, so it's easy to read him. Also, he is very open about his feelings and doesn't mind asking for a hug, company, or talk. I feel sad for this sexist culture of men suppressing their feelings. Sensitive men who are open to communication make things much easier in a relationship and for themselves. There are women out there who appreciate you being honest about your needs. Don't give up because you had bad luck with a sexist woman. Story 17. This is a good question. My ex would just call me a girl and tell me to stop being a bitch. She was raised super repressed, though, so I'm not sure what I expected. Story 18. Never done it. But if things were really a mess, I would tell her I am having a horrible day, I don't want to talk about it, and could I just cuddle up with her in total silence for about 20 minutes? That would be my stress relief. Make it clear that she is not allowed to ask questions. Story 19. I usually just walk up to her and say, I need a hug, and then I get one. When I wake up feeling off, I tell her, and she's usually super affectionate and loving after that. It means I get to be the cuddly rather than the cuddler, which, as a 6-foot man with a 5'8" girl, is very fun. I feel free and open to talk to her about my stuff, and I never want to let her go because of it. Story 20. The comments on this thread have been really distressing. I try so hard to be supportive of my boyfriend when he is low, and I find it incredibly hard to understand women who do not. If your girlfriend is responding that badly to you showing emotion, she is probably not the one. In which case, opening up to her is still your best option because she will show her true colors sooner, and you will not have to put yourself through a strained relationship for longer than you have to. I get that it is not that easy, and that having your emotions rejected can cause lasting damage, had it happened to me before too. But you have got to remember that her responding badly is not your fault. She is just not empathetic enough to understand. If you want to keep your personal life and emotions separate from your girlfriend's and spend your life with someone you cannot talk to, you do you. But just know that you do not have to do that. Story 21. I haven't been in a relationship for a long time. However, nowadays I would find some way of asking for emotional support, but in the past, I would have never done that as I thought it would have been considered stupid of me to do so. Edit. Sorry that this wasn't really helpful, but I thought I would just get this off my chest. Story 22. This will probably be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think you should go to your girlfriend for emotional support. There is a real possibility that even though she thinks she wants to see you vulnerable and emotional, it might have the unintended effect of you being less attractive to her. It might not be the case all the time, but enough people have had this experience for it to be pertinent. As you say, emotional support is important though. Go to the guy friends you have that you trust and respect and talk to them. Build your support network with them so you can go to them and they can go to you. Good luck, dude. Story 23. I'm a big black guy, quite quiet in general, very calm demeanor, friendly, open. Opening up to a partner scares them off. They want a man. I always found it easier talking to a woman I'm not in a relationship with just for the conversation. But even then, the infuriating thing is that now everyone has bought into the idea of toxic masculinity, so now any issue I'm facing is due to some element of my masculinity rather than the problem itself. All discussions are somehow brought around to the conclusion that it's my fault as a man and I need to better myself. Always better to not speak to women. Wonderfully ironic in a time where women are blaming men and men's toxicity for not being able to be open. Women fail to see their role in all this and have bought into this idea that they are only to be seen as victims, so fail to see where they are actors and imitators in issues men have. Story 24. My girlfriend always knows when there's something wrong with me. That means I'm either really bad at hiding my emotions, or she just knows me really well. Obviously, this doesn't work for every relationship. Story 25. Most men don't. If you have a good girlfriend, She will notice long before you are ready or comfortable sharing it. That's where half the problems in relationships seem to come from.